Hey, everybody, welcome in. It is day 4 of Webinar Wonderland. This is the 4th topic that we're talking about this week out of 5. On Monday, we talked about YouTube. Tuesday was about podcasting. Wednesday was about online courses. Today, we were talking about building and launching a community. Maybe you'll have one already, or maybe you're going to be launching one from scratch early next year. Either way, we want to help you because we at SPI have been focusing very heavily. In fact, our entire business model has changed to focus on community. And this is a topic that I was probably most excited talking about this week because I don't talk about it very often. So if you've been here with us, and I do see some familiar faces on Dog and Peter and a few others who've been with us the entire week, and some of you might just be coming in or even watching the replay to get this information. We have a lot of information to share and a lot of actionable things that I want you to think about in terms of your audience and how you can best bring them together based on today's presentation. So let me take you to 2019. This was an event that I put together along with my team in San Diego called FlynnCon. We had about 500 entrepreneurs from all around the world come in and fly in, and they got a lot of great presentations from a lot of high performers and people in the industry. There was a lot of activities and a lot of learnings going on, but the number one piece of feedback that we got from this event, which was very surprising, and we ran a survey to understand this, was the best parts were the conversations I had with people between the sessions in the foyer. You know, when you go to an event, you go to the presentation, sure, but it's the stuff that happens in the hallways that seem to be the most life-changing for a lot of people. Partnerships, friendships, camaraderie, those kinds of things happened. And it was funny because we were like, oh, well, we could have just had a big room and put those people together. And that's kind of what a community is. You don't necessarily need to have and pour more information into this group. You just need to create a space to bring these people together. And I'm going to share with you a number of different things in and around this. Now, the first time that community became very apparent to me, I mean, there's been a number of cases. When I started my business in 2009, 2008, it was a community that helped support me as I got started. It was accessibility to not just the founders of that community, but other people in that community as well who were on the same journey that I was on, who spoke the same language that I spoke, who were suffering from the same struggles that I was suffering with as well. And it just felt so great to be a part of that. But it came back around in 2020 because we wanted to put together FlynnCon again in 2020. But of course, 2020 happened and a lot of things changed our plans, right? There was the pandemic and everybody was locked in. And so even more so, people were craving the ability to connect with one another. And 2 companies sort of came out during the pandemic that brought people together, even though we couldn't in person come together. And those were Clubhouse. Any Clubhouse users or former Clubhouse users in the house, let me know in the chat. And Circle. Circle is the platform that we use to now host our community. And these came out right around that time. And they were especially important because people felt lost. They felt isolated. And these were digital ways to bring people together. And since then, we've changed our tagline really to be about bringing people together and working together. And it's been working really, really well. So well, in fact, that community has become our business model. And it's something that we now teach. And we have a course inside of the All Access Pass, which many of you have heard me talk about this week. Yes, all the courses that we mentioned this entire week are in there, including this one, Community Business Blueprint. And it's just been amazing to see. And our community has absolutely been thriving. This is SPI Pro. We have the All Access Pass as well. Connecting people together has been incredible. And I think you might be able to relate to this. You know, over the years, this has been what SPI has been about. The blog, the podcast, the videos, the books, the courses, all the information that I've been able to share here on YouTube and on the blog and on the podcast have really created this incredible audience. But it's been now since building the community around these things. You know, these things in the middle attract the people who come together. And when we offer spaces and the ability for people in that space who connect because of that, the topics that I'm talking about and the things that I'm writing and speaking about, it just strengthens the brand and it offers that space for people to come together, right? It's quickly become the center of our business. It's something that we've never had any feedback like this about before. We've had courses, we've helped people, we've changed lives for years. But ever since really focusing on community, we've never gotten this kind of feedback. And we do use Circle as our platform for this. Again, in full disclosure, I am not just an affiliate for Circle, I'm an advisor as well. So I just want to have you keep that in mind. But what's really interesting is as we focused on the community and focusing on the people and bringing them together, the community has grown, right? And all these things play a role here. And I think it's really important before we get started on strategies to help you launch yours. And we're going to go through what an alpha launch is and a beta launch and those kinds of things and different ways that you can do this without having it feel so heavy up front. I think it's important that we talk about the idea of building an audience versus building a community. These are two different things. I think a lot of us, when we are creators, we believe that our audience is our community, but that is not true. The analogy I like to use is your audience is, if you think about yourself on a stage presenting, which is what we're doing on these platforms, it's literally called a platform. You are on stage and your audience is sitting in the audience. And they're there and they're listening to you. And every once in a while, you might be able to talk and interact with them individually, but that's what it's like, you talking to them and them talking to you. The magic happens is when you build community, because that's not just you talking to them talking to you. That's them talking to each other. That's the larger room after the presentation that everybody goes into with a cocktail in hand and hors d'oeuvres, and they're getting to know each other. They're finding their own people that are just like them. They're speaking the same language. This is what we can create as founders and creators and business owners, is that safe space for our people to connect with one another. And that then in turn allows people to fall more in love with our brand, right? Community is super important, which is awesome. And again, thank you all for being here. I wish I could shout out everybody from Jerry to Andrew to Utopia in here, but I just have a lot to go through today, so I'm going to keep going here. What's interesting about audience versus community is that the objectives are different, number one, right? When it comes to audience building, people come to find the content. They are looking for answers, right? This is blogs, podcasts, videos, and books. When it comes to community, whether it's a free community or a paid, people come to find connection. There may be content there, yes, but they're connecting because of that content. They are having a sense of belonging. They have and share a common language with the other people there that they can, riff off of. They are getting inspiration, motivation, help. They are helping other people there too. And as we've heard a lot of people say before, people come for the content, but they stay for the community. So the objectives between audience building and community building is different. But so are the business models of that, right? So when it comes to audience-based businesses, we want attention, right? We are grabbing people's attention. And that can come in many forms: search engine optimization, affiliate marketing, paid ads, sponsorships, right? Commerce. And it favors fixed pricing. Sorry, it's a little cut off there at the bottom. But with community, it's not just getting attention, right? Community is kind of, okay, you kind of have their attention already, but how can we keep that attention? How can we retain? How do we offer retention in here? Well, that's through subscription. Again, this is the business model. The subscription model is retention, coaching, events, masterminds, membership tiers. This favors recurring revenue. And it's why a lot of business owners really like the idea of a membership model or recurring revenue. It's because it's more predictable. And as long as you continue to provide value to people, people will continue to pay if it is indeed a paid business model. This is Nerd Fitness, an amazing community online of people who are learning how to take care of their bodies. Now, there's a lot of different places and brands and offerings out there to do that in the world of fitness and nutrition. But Steve Kamb, the founder of this, has taken a very interesting approach to this. This is a fitness space for nerds, right? The people who are often left out of those conversations about losing weight or gaining weight, right? These are the nerds who play video games. And as a result, that kind of language, that shared language, is a part of how he teaches fitness and health. So definitely check out Nerd Fitness if you haven't already. It's in the brand name. It's in the way that he talks about it. It's how he brings Lord of the Rings into how he teaches certain things. All those kinds of things play a role in how he's bringing these people, the nerds who want to learn fitness together, because they don't often feel welcome at gyms. They don't often feel like they can say or share anything when the people that they are around are, they're just not nerds, right? So bringing nerds together, it's almost a niche and a niche and a niche, or a community within a niche and a niche, if you will, which I think is really cool. Now, speaking of video games, when you're creating content, oftentimes it feels like a one-player game for people, your audience, right? This idea that it's, one player, you're kind of going through a 2D land, you're jumping, you're crushing challenges, you're reaching goals, and eventually you'll hit the dream of saving the princess from the castle. But in the world of community, it's less of a linear game like this, and it's more like a world like this, World of Warcraft. Any WoW players on here? World of Warcraft was a big part of my life for a year and a half, but I eventually had to quit because it did take my time away from studies and what was really important. But all this to say, I mean, even here, it's like on the homepage of World of Warcraft, it's like looking for a guild. Here's a new tool to help you find your people. This is a world that you can join. You could become a horde or alliance member and find other people to band together to create guilds to then accomplish goals. And guess what? These people share a certain language and they feel a connection to it much more than a person playing a one-player game would by themselves. And this is the difference between the one-player game of content creation and the guild World of Warcraft multiplayer game of creating communities. So number 3, the user experience is different between audience building and community building, right? For community, from a consumer's point of view, what are they consuming? They're consuming blogs, they're consuming podcasts, videos, books, courses even. And the feeling that a user has on the other end of your content is, I'm kind of on my own, right? They're consuming a guide and then they got to go do the thing that you taught them, right? Especially if it's more educational. Versus a member point of view, a member of a community, they're feeling like they're a part of something, like they're being guided, like they have a place to seek guidance, and they're with people like them. So I think we all know that you're more likely to accomplish a goal when you're doing it with other people. Well, as a creator who is helping people, bringing people together is a great way to ensure further success in your brand, which makes complete sense. When people are involved, they were invested, or they are invested. In terms of user experience, in terms of communication, it's different, right? For a consumer of our content in the one-sided conversation, it's comments, it's a contact form, it's email, it's more private or siloed. In the world of memberships and communities, it's replies and threads and group conversations and group chats, right? Group direct messages, which is a new feature that Circle has offered now, which has been brilliantly used. Conversations are the new comments. Conversations are the new comments. Let me hear it in the back. Conversations are the new comments. Transformation, right? We want our audiences to transform, to learn and actually implement and get a result. In the world of consumer of our content, they learn something and then they move on. Or they subscribe for the next time, right? They subscribe to our YouTube channel so they can get the next thing on that linear list of theirs. Versus a member, they learn something new, and as a result, they feel more connected. They feel a sense of belonging. There's accountability, there's support, there's confidence, spirit, there's memorable moments, sharing wins, sharing losses, shoulders to cry on. This is the transformation experience for a user in our memberships in communities. And in communities, when goals are hit, new goals are set. That's the cool thing about this. It's not just like, okay, I got what I need, I'm gone. It's, I got what I need, what's next? What have you done? And pulling inspiration from each other. So let's talk about now launching your community. And that was a lot of sort of preamble, a lot of information to just set things up. But if you're ready to go, let me see a fire emoji in the chat just so I can get a signal. And hopefully this lesson of audience versus community is something that we talk about all the time. Matt, our CEO, has been very, very adamant about teaching this stuff because it is so important in the delineation between creating content and building an audience on these platforms, and then taking the audiences that we're building and putting them into a room that is safe for them to connect with each other, i.e. community. And the beauty of this is you don't need that many people from that audience that you're building to come together to find other people like them, to create something incredibly strong, incredibly loyal, incredibly joyful in your brand. You don't need very many people, right? If you've ever read my book, Superfans, you'll know that the community portion is close to the top of the pyramid, right? The pyramid of fandom. The people on the bottom of this pyramid are people who have just found you, who don't even know who you are. They're there for the content. And the people at the top are the superfans. Your community is right before superfans happen. And that's why I think focusing on community and focusing on superfans is how we gain long-term loyalty. It's how we battle against market changes. It's how we stay agile as things change. Your audience will give you feedback, but your community will give you love, right? Thank you for the sweater love today, by the way. All right, let's dive in. You don't want to launch your community like a rocket ship, right? When even the word launching your community probably shouldn't be used, because launching feels big, right? It feels like, okay, I got to plan everything. I got to get the spacesuit on. I got to get my oxygen levels correct. I need the tubes for my pee when I go into spacewalks to be all like, I don't know why I went there, but there's so many things. I mean, how many buttons are on a darn launch mission inside of a spaceship? So many, and it feels very overwhelming. So let's not even think about it like launching, like we would launch a rocket ship. That's too heavy. It's not relatable. What is relatable, though, is launching your community like you're opening a restaurant. That's how I want you to think about this from this point forward. You're opening a restaurant. And when you're at a restaurant, guess what? People come to your restaurant. They eat. They hang out. They enjoy the food, yes, but they're also talking with each other. Many times we go to a restaurant not just because it has great food, but because of who the company we are going with. And so I want you to imagine your community like this. And this is you. You're serving up the dishes there. You're allowing a space for people to connect, and your food is the connector, your food being the content. Now, the challenge with launching a community like it's a restaurant is, like a restaurant, an empty one is not a good sign. If you are it is a massive startup. So keep watching Goofy, because I'm going to show you how to launch a restaurant too in a way that you should, because a restaurant is indeed very, very complicated, much like a community. But you want to launch like a restaurant would launch. And the problem with this is empty restaurants are not a good sign, right? If you launch a restaurant, nobody's inside, just like a community, people are going to go, well, this must not be that great. So it's almost like a catch-22. How do you launch a restaurant with people in it so people will come in? But then in order to come in, you need people in there first, right? And an empty community is not a good sign either. However, after you launch, the reward is this. Great restaurants grow because of word of mouth. P-tubes, yes, Lex. And launching communities is great because great communities grow because of word of mouth. So keep that restaurant analogy in mind, because we're going to actually launch a restaurant, i.e. your community, in a way that allows it to be much more simplified, a lot less overwhelming. So here's our workshop plan today. We're going to talk about coming up with an idea and validating it, setting it up, phase 1, 2, and launch. Yes, there are a couple phases before the launch and then post-launch. So let's talk about idea and validation, right? You might have an idea for what your community will be about or who is going to be in it. Likely that's pretty simple to understand, but how do we validate that? Well, there's a few ways to go about doing this. You can ask yourself, well, do other communities in this space that I'm in also exist? If yes, then that's actually a great thing. Oftentimes we think they are competitors, and although they on paper are, your community is going to be different than theirs because it's led by a completely different person. It might have a completely different set of goals. It might be for a specific subset of people in that particular industry. If other communities already exist, then that's a good sign that yours will do well as well. 2, has your audience been asking for ways to connect with each other, or are they finding ways to connect already? They might be connecting on X or in groups on Facebook or groups on LinkedIn. If that is the case, then that is a good validation that yes, this could be something potentially that you could set up and people would be interested in joining and being a part of. Level 3, to further validate, create a small event and see if people register or RSVP. A good friend of mine, she created an event in her local community just to see if people would show up before even creating anything online, because she wanted to see if people were even interested. And she knew that if nobody was going to show up, well, then it might not be worth continuing, at least in this route, to build a community online. But she was able to bring people in person together, and she's now built a community online on the backings of that. The big benefit of doing it in person is you're able to actually see the faces and connect and hear the stories and learn more about them, and then take what you learn there and bring it online. I'm not saying you have to do it that way, but I love the idea of a micro test. You can micro test something online in the same kind of way. You might be able to set up a webinar or a live stream about a particular topic or for specifically a group of people, not just a general one, but hey, live stream for parents of teenagers. Best tips that I've found. Let's talk. Well, if nobody comes in, or if I get terrible feedback, okay, now I'm learning something and I can move forward. But if a lot of people come in and they're like, hey, Pat, this was a lot of fun, we should do this again. Aha, let's in fact do it again and try it in a different and better way, like an online community, right? So the fourth way, the fourth level of validation would be, so yeah, they show up to something and then they want more, right? So validation test, try to bring some people together, create something small first before going bigger, and then you can expand from there. The setup, I'm not going to spend so much time on. The most important thing when you're setting up your community, we could talk for an entire 3 hours about this. We use Circle. There's a lot of other platforms out there. I love Circle. I'm an advisor to Circle, just FYI. So take that with a grain of salt, my recommendation, but I wouldn't be using it if it wasn't great. But the biggest thing, and we've learned this from making mistakes, is start simple, right? When you're starting out, don't have 1,000 spaces that people can come in. It's almost like building an entire stadium for a group of 5 people. No, have a single room that they can come in and talk about certain topics and go from there, right? Keep it simple and watch out for the curse of bells and whistles. You know bells and whistles, right? All the little fancy things that you want to include because they sound like good ideas. Don't. What is the minimum viable community that you could start with and you can expand from there? With our communities inside of SPI, we've actually cut down a lot of stuff that we started with because we made those mistakes. And yes, you might make mistakes too, and you can always change things, but we wish we kept it a little bit more simple up front. And then the most important thing is have a smooth onboarding process, which is really key. So if you are starting out with a community and it's not even on a platform like that, it might just be on like a Facebook group, make sure that it's very clear how that is started and how you want people to interact and kind of what the really simple rules are for interactions there. But if you are going to have something on Circle, for example, which is separate than what many people have learned, simple onboarding process, just like, and Jay Klaus, I got to give credit to him for this. He said, if you join a CrossFit gym, they're not just going to go, all right, here's the gym, good luck. No, you're going to get overwhelmed and you might even break yourself, right? They're going to give you a little tour. Here's this space. Here's how you use this. Oh, there's Jimmy over there. He's been with us for 2 years. He's awesome. If you have any questions about nutrition, he's your guy. Oh, and over here are our bands. This is how we put them back. We try to keep things clean as a community because that's how we can help each other. The onboarding process online should be similar to that in a space like that offline. And it might just take a video or a message on a start page to do that, right? And then finally, invest in great software. Eventually, once you start to do this and see that it has some legs, you want to make sure you invest in a software that you are comfortable with that can support the community that you want to build. All right, now for the important stuff, because launching a community can feel very, very heavy. Phase 1, the alpha launch. Let's go back to the restaurant analogy like we spoke about earlier. Your alpha launch is like if you're opening up a restaurant before the restaurant's even open, before you may even know when the open date is. You might have a single room in the restaurant ready for a private VIP dinner. You're going to invite some people that you already know, some people who are a part of your audience, people who have served that audience and have been involved in conversations, or partners of yours, whoever it may be in your audience. Invite them, like literally invite them to a small dinner party, a very, very limited way to consume just a little bit of what you have to offer and to meet each other, right? That's what an alpha launch is in the world of community. It's a way for you to get things started now, to bring people in, to make them feel special, to serve up a little bit of what this community will ultimately have, and also make them feel like a part of the process. In the world of restaurants, this is even before a soft launch. This is a room in the back where you're serving just a couple dishes that you've made specially just for them, and you're talking about what's coming in this restaurant. You're talking about some of the dishes that you're going to make, and you're asking questions like, what kinds of things do you want to see in this restaurant? What do you believe the decoration should be like in this other room? When you have conversations and get your audience involved in this way, again, a small audience, it could be as small as 5 people, 3 people even, 2. Doesn't have to be very big. This is a way for you to start laying the groundwork for what your foundational community will be before you launch and go bigger, right? So an alpha launch. Why do an alpha launch in this way? It rewards your most active and motivated users and customers. These are the people who you are ultimately creating your community for, people like them. The most active ones are going to be the most helpful. They're going to be the most excited. They're going to provide the most feedback, and they're going to be the ones that are more likely to say yes. You can test your systems. You can test the onboarding process. You can see if people get lost on the way. And guess what? They're going to be more than happy to tell you when they get lost because they really care. Hey, the parking was tough in the back when we came to this restaurant. You might want to, see if you could do something about that. Okay, cool. Nice. Good to know. So that when I bring everybody in, I'll let them know to park across the street because that's where the parking lot actually is, right? Chef PK says, as someone who has opened a couple of restaurants, this is accurate. Chef PK in the house, by the way, an amazing YouTuber who creates dishes that you might see in your favorite animes. Definitely check out Chef PK if you haven't already. So you can test your systems in the world of restaurants. Let's see if the system that we use to fry our dishes and plate and expedite these things and then send them out actually works. And if they don't, wonderful. We are learning this before we go big. You can test your systems. You can test your menu. Let's serve up a couple dishes. Chef PK, I'm curious to know what your favorite dish to cook is and serve that one, right? I know this specifically in my own experience because I've helped a lot of food trucks get started. I used to have a brand called Food Trucker. Did I have a food truck myself? No. I became known in the space because I was the person to collect all the information and then present it on a website called Food Trucker and a podcast that eventually got sold in 2020. And I know that from a food trucker's experience, before they even buy the food truck, they're doing dinner parties for their friends in their houses. That's how they test the dishes that will ultimately end up on their trucks. Pretty cool. And it's a great analogy for launching a community. Test a couple things first. Maybe you might have an idea for an event that you might want to hold. Okay, just do that one event and one event only. It's a Ask the Expert event, or it's a behind the scenes event that you and a few other people in the community are going to offer. It's a place for people to share what they have working on and do coaching live that is only available there. Your people who are here, a part of this alpha launch, they're going to understand that it's completely new and they're going to feel special. And that is really key because it ties, like, as a byproduct of all of this, they're going to be more tied to your brand, fall more in love with it, and support you even more. And when this thing launches, guess who's going to be the most loud about it? They will, especially if you've built it with them. So it helps them. And it's a safe space to work out the kinks and get valuable feedback, like we said. In 2020, we launched SPI Pro, and we followed this exact same manner. We brought an alpha group in, a founders group, and we were able to understand what worked and what didn't before launching it live. And this has now since been up for about 3 years, and it's been incredible. It's been enhanced over time, but it definitely started out simple, and we learned a lot, and we made a lot of mistakes. But this is now SPI Pro, along with a secondary community we call the All Access Pass that encapsulates all of our courses. It's been the best thing we've ever done. I mean, in my 16 years of doing business, this is by far the most valuable thing that we've ever created, that I've ever been a part of, because we're seeing the results. And again, this speaks to just how important community can be. Literally teaching the same kind of stuff, but with the community behind it, it just works so much better. We've had more brand loyalty. We've had some people go way out of their way to invite more people in for us. And it's like nothing we've ever experienced before. The way we brought people in is we invited them, like literally invited them. Some with a video, some with an email, some, I don't think we did any handwritten stuff, but if you are that tied to your more active audience members, yeah, send them a literal card in the mail and say, hey, you're invited to this community event that I'm hosting on this new platform. I want you to be a part of it. You're one of a small group of people, and I like, this is important. So you can actually invite people in that way. So yeah. That's phase one, the alpha launch. Excuse me as I take a sip. Next, we're going to talk about phase two. Phase two is, of course, phase one was alpha. Phase two is beta, aka the soft launch. Now, this is something that is a common term in the world of restaurants, but not so much in the world of online business and community. But in the community, yes, you want to do a soft launch. So why do we do this? Well, for very similar reasons, but we're scaling this up a little bit now. In a beta launch or soft launch, you can build a little bit of buzz. right? It's not a private invite to just a few people to test a few things out and get the kinks out. This is now going to be a soft launch where you're now inviting a few more people in. It's only going to be open for a limited number of people and or a limited amount of time. I remember there was a soft launch to a restaurant here locally, and everybody was all about it because it was a limited opportunity. It was going to be open for about 3 days, and then it was going to close again and not open publicly until another month forward. And it opened a little bit earlier than a month forward. This was a Thai place called Taste of Thai around where I live. And it was just so popular. And it was a great way to even um, showcase that excitement for the restaurant during that time, which carried forward into when they launched publicly, right? And they were like open for good. And then finally on DoorDash and all this kind of stuff, right? So it was very smart. And again, a little bit more limited of a menu. But in this manner, it can prepare your staff a little bit more, right? If you have a little bit more people involved. And I will say that you can launch a community if you were just on your own, but it's a lot more difficult. I would highly recommend looking for at least somebody that you could bring on to support the community and keep it moderated, and even um, encourage conversation. It could be an assistant. It could be actually a member of your community that you could promote into this. You don't necessarily have to pay them money, but make it worth their while. You might give them free access as well as access to some other stuff that you might have, or free coaching calls or something in exchange for being a part of this community, being active, and helping to encourage those conversations that are important for inside of your community. This can also refine your logistics inside of your community as well. Just making sure that the things that you thought were true are in fact true as you go along. You can get more feedback earlier. And at this point, you can actually boost revenue. You are getting paid, I hope, at this time. In general, when a person launches a beta group, you can call it a founders group, a early bird group, a first experience group, whatever fun name around your brand that you want to include. Beta may not be the best name because beta in many people's eyes means the crappy version of something. So, play around with that name in terms of your beta launch. Soft launch could be great, even, right? A lot of great questions, by the way, coming in. I see that, Kimberly. So please hold that till the end. I'll be here to answer questions as we finish up, just like we did yesterday. So I appreciate you and your patience for that. But you can't get paid for this. And you could offer a limited time deal for the first X number of people, or for just the next 2 days. We're going to let people in at this price, the founder's price, the first user's price. And what's beautiful about this is because typically these communities have a recurring payment plan, whether it's monthly or quarterly, like ours, and annual, you can lock them in. So there's benefit to coming in early. They lock in that price. And of course, it is then up to you to showcase and hold that value in there that they are purchasing. Boost revenue. So here's some other tips with relation to your soft launch or beta launch for your community. And again, I'm hoping that already this is making it feel like it's a little bit more achievable instead of, okay, I just got to launch and I got to have 200 people in there. In fact, that would be scary. I would not recommend launching a community that would have 200 people on day one. If that's the case, then alpha launch with 10 people, beta launch with 100 people, and then go from there. Have a limited menu. And in terms of menu with a community, for Circle, it's called Spaces. You can host events. It's just channels like on Slack, different areas that people can go to where they know certain discussions are happening, right? So we have spaces specifically to talk about email marketing, monetization, audience building, traffic building, those kinds of things. You might have spaces for if you are a dog trainer, which I know there's a couple of you watching live right now. There might be one for if you are teaching all kinds of dogs, adults, and puppies. Or maybe you are only targeting puppies. Okay, here is the 0 to 3 month phase. Here is the 3 to 6 month phase. Maybe it's about certain topics, potty training, crate training, athletic training, whatever it might be, right? You can have different spaces for those different things. But again, to call back something I mentioned earlier, don't have too many up front. You want concentrated conversations to happen, especially when you first launch your community. By concentrated conversations, I mean more people in fewer spaces so that it's just more active. You really want to start training your audience, not puppy training your audience, but train your audience how to know, okay, these are the spaces and it's safe to have a conversation there. And I am getting replies and there are threads happening. This is what you do before you start expanding from there. What did Sarah say? Discord. Yeah, Discord is another place that a lot of people are building their communities. Discord is pretty complicated to use, and depending on the niche that you're in, it may be a little bit too technical for some people. But in the gaming space and a lot of the more collectible spaces that I am in, like Pokemon, it is very much where a lot of brands' communities are hosted. So limited menu, again. For us, you can see here on the left-hand side in the SPI Pro community, we have a Start Here place, and this is the events page. The events are really important to have, too. You don't need to have this many of them planned ahead. We have events in our community all the time, and many of these events in SPI Pro are actually hosted by our own community members, which is really cool and a fun feature of Circle. But the events are great because these are things that people can sign up for and look forward to. The one thing I'll say about events and something that you'll need to realize with your community is that many of us are trained just as consumers to feel like we need to consume every part of something that we pay for. Right? If you pay for a course, you're watching every lesson. In a community, it's a little bit different. In fact, if you encourage your audience to consume every bit and part of your community, it's going to be too overwhelming and it's going to be too much. Especially with events, we say go to the events that make sense for you. You don't have to go to all of them. You will have more events that you can go to later. And this is the other thing. It helps promote longevity. It helps promote retention. Here are the things that are coming. Like we have things happening in January that I'm going to share with you later to hopefully convince you to be a part of the All Access Pass down the road. So I'll share those things with you later. But events are a great way to provide an urgency of sign up now, if you will, and stick around because these things are coming that might be useful for you. Have a few events in there, especially when you're just starting out with a beta so that people can look forward to them. And those are, one or two even could be great for bringing your community together during those times. Open and close that launch period for your soft launch, right? Just like the restaurant example, it's open for this many days and then it closes this way. Again, there's a point at which a decision has to be made by your person. If there is no reason to make a decision now, then no decision will be made for most people. This is our job as marketers, Marketing 101. Help your person, your target audience, make a decision. The date at which they can and then cannot anymore join your beta group and get access to that special price, they have to make a decision one way or another. And a decision is important, even if it is no. If they're not sure or if they can, well, I'll wait till later, then you're not doing your job. And celebrate your founding members, right? Offer something special like a bonus, like I said. We have what's cool about Circle is we have a little tag that you can put next to a person's name that everybody can see. And we have a tag based on the year and quarter that you joined. And our founding members have a big, bright, I think purple tag that says founding members. So anybody else can see founding members in there and they keep that tag with them. And it almost like gamifies this and it becomes sort of a badge of honor, if you will, which is something that's really cool that can happen in a community. Now, should you require an application when you bring people into a community? That is going to be really up to you. An application adds a little bit of exclusivity, right? It's something that's like, oh, this is like a serious thing. And it offers also a filter that is useful for you. You want to keep your community tight for the kinds of people that you want in it. And for example, if you know that, let's just keep going with the dog training example. If you have an application to join your community, and you just want to make sure it's the right people in there, you could say, okay, do you have a puppy? Yes or no? I mean, this is just an easy example. If they have an adult dog, or if you get the age ranges of their dogs that they have, if they're above a certain range, then maybe you know that, okay, the content's not, the community and what we talk about here is not going to be for them. And you don't want to waste their time, and they don't want to have their time wasted. We can find that out early. And this is what we do inside of SPI Pro. We ask you questions when you apply, which you can apply. We'd love for you to apply at spipro.com. We ask you questions about your business, your brand, your experience. We want to make sure that the kinds of conversations that are happening at SPI Pro level, which is the higher level community that we have, are going to be relevant and useful for you. And that you coming in, you're not going to feel left out. You're going to feel like you belong to this group. And if not, we don't go, sorry. We say, hey, you're not quite ready for SPI Pro. will help you work your way toward that. But here are some other options for you. Here's some free content to help you. And here's our other community that might be more relevant to where you're at in your journey right now. It's called the All Access Pass. By the way, people who join SPI Pro also have access to the All Access Pass. So we do require an application for SPI Pro. And if you, again, wanted to check this out, you can go to smartpassiveincome.com/pro or spipro.com. And here we ask, again, questions about online businesses. And we know that, for example, if a person does not have an online business, then SPI Pro is not quite for them yet. Now, there are pros and cons, obviously, to having an application, this filtration process, this idea of almost like applying to a university, right? We don't let everybody in. I think more than half of the people who apply do not get in to SPI Pro. They get, quote unquote, rejected. I don't like that word. They get reflected to programs or other things that can help them more, I guess, if you will. Instead of rejected, it's reflected. Because they are a light in our community and we want to reflect. Okay, never mind. Anyway, if you get it and it makes you feel like, okay, you're like, all right, I deserve this, I'm in, and you get excited about it, right? But at the same time, it definitely leaves some people out who maybe could still benefit from it, and it limits the number of people that could be in there. So again, it's really up to you to have an application process. Without the application process, obviously, it's a lot less friction. Some people just don't like applications, and I'm sure the application stops people who would otherwise become a member and who would be qualified to become a member because it's just another part of it's another step to take. But we found that, especially for SPI Pro, it's working really well for us. We do not have an application process for the All Access Pass. We kind of welcome everybody into that. But again, it's up to you. The converse side of this is you might bring people into the community that might not be a good fit, and they might find that out later and then ask for a refund. Redirected is a better term. Thank you. All right. So let's keep going here. Phase 2 is the beta. And then, of course, phase 3 is the launch. You're open. And when you're open, you go through the same process. You discover what's working. You discover what's not. You have more people in there. You're getting paid, and it's great. Retention is the big thing to keep people in here. At this point, it's about keeping people in. And where a lot of entrepreneurs who do educational content struggle is we feel like it's just the education stuff, access to that is worth the continuation of payment. And in some cases, that is true. But in many cases, it's not. Having events once a month or a couple times a month, don't, again, have too many. But having events to look forward to keeps people in. Having continual things that provide value to people keep people in. We have a few things inside of SPI Pro that definitely keep people in. We do something called mastermind matching or mastermind matchmaking, where we will put you together with somebody else in a group of people to hold each other accountable, to build a friendship, to build partnerships with. And we do that for you, right? It's not just you working on your own in there. It's us helping you. And we'll find those people for you. And when you find your people, you're more likely to stay in, right? Now there is actually a consequence to leaving. You are leaving this group that actually can support you and provide more ROI for you, right? The workshops that happen, right? We create new workshops every month or two, and these workshops are relevant to the times that we're in now. And these things are things that can help continue your journey with us and help us continue to generate revenue whilst also continuing to serve you over time. So that's definitely something that's going to be really important to consider is like, okay, when a person gets that bill for the community that they are paying for, what's going to make them go, yes, that was worth that, and I'm going to continue to pay because I'm looking forward to this, versus like, okay, well, I just have access to this content and I've been paying for it, but I haven't been using it. And that's the struggle with a lot of membership sites that are just based on content. It's like, okay, well, information is kind of free everywhere now, right? It's the community that's behind it. This is why we call it community-powered courses now. It's not just the course, it's the people and the community behind that supports you. Now, when it comes to selling and continually getting and driving new members into your community, there's one thing that will do better than anything, and that is the story of a person in your community who has experienced transformation, right? So story. I think I've said story in every single presentation this week during Webinar Wonderland, and it matters everywhere. It matters when you're creating content. It definitely matters when you're selling, and it matters with community. If you can tell the story of people in your community and maybe the worries and struggles that they had going in, but then how much the community has helped them, then awesome, right? Story is everything. Sharing the dragons that they slayed. And it was because of the community and the people who they were with that they were able to slay that dragon, right? This is very much coming from Donald Miller, a book called Building a Story Brand. He says, paint your paint your audience like the hero of the story. Your audience is the hero of the story. You are the guide that now the audience will want to go to have a similar story in their lives too, right? So if you have a podcast, if you have a blog, if you have social media, share the individual stories in your community. And just sharing that story alone and your community being a part of that story, your community will grow, right? This is Brenda from Outdoor Photography School. She is a member of SPI Pro, and she came on. I invited her onto the podcast. Episode 533, How Brenda Built a Niche Online Education Business the Smart Way. And we talked about it. We talked about how she struggled and the things she was learning, and then she just, without even prompting her, talked about the community and how much it supported her, and this has driven more community members. Maria, I talked about her yesterday as well, but she is somebody who actually won one of our challenges inside of SPI Pro. In October of 2020, we did a challenge where we asked people who wanted to participate. Challenges are also a great thing that you can do, a sort of signature event that you can offer inside of your community. We had a challenge for people to create a 60-second video with no editing that tells us what their brand is about. So script a 60-second video and put yourself on camera. It was very scary for a lot of people, but it was a great exercise. And Maria was our winner. And when she won, she got a spot on the SPI podcast. She came in on episode 583, and I knew she'd be great because she had already won that. And she's helped to drive more members into our community by just simply telling her story. And of course, when you do that, word of mouth plays a role, right? People inside the community are going to be your evangelists. They're going to continue to talk about you without you even prompting to their friends, to their colleagues, to other people in the online marketing space. Word of mouth becomes a primary way that your community grows. And that only happens when you transform those who are a part of your community. And so really, it's not just about the content, it's about experience. We had asked our new members in our founding group for SPI Pro, what's the number one thing you want to get out of your experience here inside of SPI Pro? The thing that was voted the least, the thing that people did not want at all, was more content. It was connection. It was an experience that surrounds that content. That content's still there, but the truth is this is the kind of world we're living in right now. We are bloated. Who else here is bloated from just so much content? And I know I'm providing content for you right now, but hopefully this is, better than just like a Big Mac and a bunch of onion rings. What else do we got in there? I mean, there's a cake in there. That's just disgusting. We live in this kind of world where we're just getting force-fed all this content now. And it is those creators who understand that, yes, content is important, but who understand that people come for the content and they stay for the community. And they also pay for the community. This is where we're going to win. This is where we need to skate. This is where the puck is headed in the future, and this is where we are going. This is where SPI is, because we've, again, changed our business model to focus completely on community. And look at this. It's not the fanciest of food. This is some picnic in some community. And perhaps besides the woman in the purple there in the front, who I don't know if somebody took the chair across from her or whatnot, she looks like she's kind of eating alone. But everybody else looks like they're just talking, having a good time, right? You don't need the fanciest cups. These are just the red Solo cups. Your community doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't have to have the fanciest food, because it's not even about that. It's about just putting up a tent, throwing down some tables, putting up some chairs, and allowing people to just get to know each other, to share a common interest, to talk about what's happening in the community, to share the same language, to help each other out. That's what community is. And you have that ability to create that community. It could be as big as what we have at SPI Pro and the All Access Pass, which I'm going to invite you to in just a second. Or it could be as small as just a tiny little WhatsApp group who shares things with each other about your kids with each other, or whatever it might be, right? So I invite you to, and I challenge you to, in 2024, to throw up some chairs, put up a tent, and invite your people to come in and hang out. And it's funny because I do throw parties every once in a while. I do put things like get-togethers. I did one the other day for the Pokemon community here in San Diego, a little ugly sweater Christmas party. You want to see the ugliest sweater? This is oh my gosh. So there's a guy, he was here on Monday on one of our streams, but this was an ugly sweater Christmas party that we put together for the local Pokemon community. Just an ugly sweater trade night. And I was so worried about the coffee and the cups and everything, and people, like, even I have to remind myself sometimes, Pat, just get the right people in the room and you're going to be fine. And that's exactly what happened. Now, Gonzo, who, again, was here. I don't know if he's here right now. He might watch this replay. But he had a Christmas sweater on, and it is... Oh my gosh. You want the definition of an ugly Christmas sweater. This is an ugly Christmas sweater. This is what your super fans will do. Ugly Christmas sweater. That was a character that I played in a video on this channel 5 years ago about Zoom calls, and I had put on this wig that I had, and he put it on a Christmas sweater. Anyway, we all had a laugh. We had a good time. We did some trades. I filmed the video there. It was super fun. That's gross. And he wants me to sign that so he can give it away to a subscriber, which is why he sent it over. Yeah, I should wear this one tomorrow, shouldn't I? That's so gross. I should wear that tomorrow. Oh, cool. Utopia. Yeah, San Diego is where I'm from. So let me ask you, what was the most valuable thing you learned today? I ask this at the end of every webinar this week because I just want to know and make sure that you're pulling some value here. Hopefully you got some value, but guess what? We have a lot more value to give you. Our Community Business Blueprint course is one that was launched this past year. This is our newest course that is available inside of our All Access Pass, one of many. And I'm so proud of this course because it was actually one that was made in conjunction with the team at Circle, our #1 most recommended tool for building communities, especially in the educational kind of spaces that you might be in. We've had some people who've already gotten started. I mean, just here's Shannon, who created the Backyard Ecology community. And then here are sisters, Nancy and Amy, who have a Passionista project community for women. And it's just been amazing. And your instructors in this course are myself, Jillian, our community director, Emma, who is from Circle, the community education manager there, and our very own CEO, Matt. And we all provide lessons for this particular course because we all have different ways of helping you shape and to help you provide the best experience for your audience as well. So the All Access Pass was launched in 2022, and it includes all of our courses and workshops. I mean, more than a dozen. There's them right there. 1, 2, 3 affiliate marketing. We're going to be talking about affiliate marketing tomorrow. Webinars, a 201 podcasting course, the Community Business Blueprint, which we're talking about right now, the Email Marketing Magic course, and you get access to all of them. But like I said, it's not just access to the courses and the content that matter, right? Those are there to help you along your journey for the long run. You get into the one that you want now, but you're getting help with the community, the people who are there going through those courses with you, and Team SPI is there to guide you as well. You also have pathways, so we can help you find the right path of courses to go through for your specific journey. We don't just like give you access and you go, okay, like you're on your own. We help you determine which ones to go through next and which ones make sense for you. And then we have our accelerators. These are really special. These are kind of like events, but they go across the span of a few weeks, right? So we have one coming up in January that if you sign up now, you also can be a part of, called Amped Up Podcasting. We have a lot more happening in 2024. We just wrapped up our Podcasting 101, as well as a YouTube from Scratch accelerator, where you actually go through a number of weeks with other students simultaneously with an instructor to help you. And it might take 4 weeks, it might take 8 weeks, depending on the content. And what happens is you each watch a module essentially per week, or a certain number of modules and lessons per week. And that way you're learning asynchronously. You're not having to show up at a particular time to learn. You learn on your own, but then you're coming together to the office hours. You're asking questions together. You're seeing questions that you might see that you might not known that you've had as well. And it just provides a much better learning experience. So what's really amazing is that, all these courses together, I mean, they're hundreds of dollars each. But what we've put together is the lowest barrier to entry for you to get access to all this, because we want you to succeed, and we want our long-term relationship together with you and I, you and SPI, to be a win for both sides. And that's why the price to get access to all this, including the community, the accelerators, everything, is just the equivalent of $59 per month, which is like nothing compared to what the ROI can be for doing things like what we're teaching today, right? We bill per quarter because we want you to stay in and get that value and meet people and get to know them. It'll be $59 a month, or again, $179 per quarter. There is a deal if you go annually. It's $599 annual if you want, and then you have to pay a little bit less if you do that. But the price is going up at the start of 2024. The price is going up at the start of 2024. So please, this is my invitation to you to come in to the All Access Pass before the end of the year. Get in, lock in that price, and we have some events coming up. January 16th is your Fix Your Funnel workshop. The January 22nd Accelerator is the Amped Up Podcasting, where you will learn to automate your podcast, to market it, get it in front of more people, and also profit from it, turn it into a business. And then there's a lot more accelerators to come as well. So sign up now. So that's the end of my pitch. And I do invite you in. We've had a lot of people come in since the Webinar Wonderland has started on Monday. And this is why we're doing this Webinar Wonderland, to hopefully encourage you and actually give you stuff that you could take and use right now, but also show you that if you need some help, if you want to join a community of entrepreneurs, in my opinion, the number one space that you could join to get together with other people who are along the same journey as you, and to get access to people who've been there and who have made those mistakes and who are helping each other. If you want to get access to that, this is the link to go to right now, smartpassiveincome.com/all-access. Again, the price goes up starting 2024. So I would love to answer some questions for the remaining time. We'll spend the next 5-10 minutes together, and I do see some questions coming in. If you had asked one earlier, please re-ask it and use the letter Q in front of your questions so that I can just kind of filter that as I go through the chat here real quick. But again, I appreciate your time and attention today. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about affiliate marketing. If you look in the description down below, you'll actually see a link to all of the things that happened this week. I know that a few people yesterday had asked for that. And you'll also see a link tomorrow's. You might have gotten an email for tomorrow's. Tomorrow, again, we're talking about affiliate marketing, which is recommending and making money by recommending other people and other companies' products, something that's actually the easiest and simplest way to generate revenue. I'm not saying it's going to happen overnight, but in my opinion, it's definitely easier than anything else. And it's something that we can all do, even if you don't have a website. Just a social media following will work to start, but you can plant these seeds that can help germinate into revenue later. And hopefully you can come in tomorrow, same time, noon Pacific. Again, I appreciate you being here. Okay. This is Karen. Doing an alpha and beta launch, my last community that I launched didn't have that. It's closing next week until I can figure it all out. Well, congratulations, Karen, on launching. And it's great that you've launched before and you're learning as you go. And hopefully the idea of an alpha or beta launch makes things a little bit more graspable. On Dog says, we have a community with the Course Insider program, but we have a hard time getting engagement. Any advice on invigorating it? Yeah, this is great. And I wish I could bring Jillian on the call because she's a master at this. And Heather, who's in the community right now, or who's on our team right now inside of the chat, is a master at this as well. There's a few things. Number one, if you're going to ask people to engage, you also need to engage too. You have to lead by example. That's number one. If you are just expecting everybody to talk amongst themselves, it's going to be difficult. You want to start, and a lot of people don't want to be first, right? Especially if you're asking people to share something. Hey, share the latest challenge that you've had with your puppy. Well, nobody wants to be first. They don't want to be alone. So you could start. You can ask other team members to start. Or here's a second sort of tip that goes along with that. You can tag people or ask people individually to go and spark a conversation or reply to somebody. Or if you know somebody who in the community or on your team that would be good to reply to something, ask them to reply to somebody who had just asked a question that you know was relevant to them. You might need to do a little bit of sort of like, imagine you're at a party and you see a couple people who you know would be great to talk to each other. Like, just grab their hand and go, hey, you guys need to talk because you guys are amazing. And I know that you've done this and I know you need help with this. Do you think you can help them really quick? That kind of stuff at a party goes very well. And it's not out of pocket to do that. It's actually of value to do that, to be the connector. So even though you've created the space, you might need to actually, make some introductions, if you will. And the other thing is have something that becomes a ritual every single week, if possible. We have some rituals like sharing the wins of the week, and it just becomes something that our community members know that's coming, that they can share. We've had some other rituals that have been really great, which is where people are sharing what they're working on, which is really cool. So that's something that you can offer as well. Again, it depends. Maybe it's share a picture of your puppy. Maybe that's like the first one, right? I think it also starts with onboarding. During the onboarding process, train your audience to know how to post something, number one. So technically they know how to do that. And to feel an instant sort of reward from that. So I think in your case, it might be really cool to, during the onboarding process, have people introduce themselves by taking a picture of their puppy and like sharing the name of their puppy, right? And now the community is seeing everybody else's pictures. They're going, oh my gosh, so cute. Or, hey, I have a puppy just like that. Or, hey, what kind of breed is that? Right? You're kind of sparking these conversations by kind of, creating a little bit of kindling for it, if you will. Yes, onboarding is so critical. Question from Steven or Stefan. Is there a difference between education-based versus entertainment-based in building a community? Yes and no. If your community, I'll explain. There can be similar types of content in each, even though one is more educational and one is more entertainment. There is still content that is valuable for people who follow somebody or who are a part of a more entertainment-based community. For example, behind the scenes, what's coming next, part of the creation process, etc. Those kinds of things can be super valuable and feel super special for a community. And in that regard, there's still content there that community can still partake in. I guess the difference is, what is the transformation, right? I think it's still important to understand that despite transformations being different, the still idea of belonging is going to be the same, right? For many entertainment-based things, the transformation might not even be very obvious or even exist in terms of like, here's who I was before and here's who I am now. But rather, the transformation is, I'm getting value out of escaping hard 9-to-5 life to escape here to connect with people who get this thing that I'm in love with, and I can just talk shop with them. That is a transformation, feeling stress relief, feeling a sense of escapism into something where I can talk shop with somebody and not feel embarrassed about it, or not feel like I'm weird here because everybody else here is weird too, right? The sense of belonging is going to be the thing that is the same. In terms of entertainment, I guess it depends on what kind of entertainment. If it's based on a certain person, then those behind the scenes and other things can work. If it's based on a thing, like let's say, for example, One Piece, the anime, maybe it's certain levels of theories and other things that go along with that too. You can play around with that a little bit. Lex says, I'm working with a group that is trying to revitalize an old peace and justice community that has no engagement. Should we keep trying to make the old model work or tear it down and start fresh? It's hard for me to answer that question, but in many cases, tearing down and starting fresh can make a lot of sense because it's such a big move that it reinvigorates and it just sounds like it's starting fresh. You might not need to necessarily tear down. I would say you definitely want to relaunch with a blast, though, right? Maybe it's not tear down, but you come out with an explosion of some kind where, okay, things are changing, new logo, new events happening, special, this is what's happening. So it's going to be really up to you. I think it's different for every person in every niche. But if something hasn't been worked on for a while, it can feel like a ghost town. And it's very like, would you rather replace all of the buildings and structures in a ghost town and just kind of like keep the same spot, or maybe we just set up a new town next door that feels different and new and people can choose to come to if they want, right? Utopia says, good stuff, lots of notes. Great, I'm glad. So we're going to go for a few more minutes here. Andrew asks, hope you don't mind I ask, what made you decide to B2B style of using multiple platforms like Teachable, Circle, ConvertKit, rather than hosting everything in-house on SPI itself? The main reason for that, Andrew, is just those technologies and tools are built specifically for the things that we wanted to have. And yes, we could in-house create those things ourselves, but our focus is on you, on the people who are in the community. If we had to also manage the technology behind that and focus on all the new changes, the new laws, like everything that happens in and around those tools, we would not be able to fully focus on the community like we want to. These tools enable us to focus on the things that we want to focus on, right? Yeah. So it's not necessarily B2B because our target customer is not B, it's C. It's consumer, it's you, it's a community. But those are the tools that help us manage and be able to do that better. Should a solopreneur wait to start a community until he or she can afford to hire support? I wouldn't wait to try to find a way to bring your people together. You may need to wait to be able to structure that in a way that ultimately best serves them. Maybe not starting out of the gate with Circle or a paid platform, but I would challenge you, Kimberly, to consider maybe as a solopreneur, how can you still bring your people together in a way that doesn't drive you nuts and doesn't take away time from other things that you know you need to do? It might be a very, very small, very easy, very smooth solution that doesn't have nearly the things that you eventually want, but it's a start, right? That's my challenge to you. For some people I know, they literally created a group text, just a group text with some of their users, just so they can talk, stay connected. That is a community too. It's like just like if we were at a large party. The internet is this big party, right? Social media is this big party, and there's people over here talking. There's the group of people over here. The band nerds are over here. The jocks are over there. There's people drinking this over there. I don't want anything to do with them. But hey, here are my people over here. I'm going to chat with them. Hey guys, let's go into this room over here because it's loud over there, right? Let's. How do you do that? Try that. Karen says, I want to have my community to be built around all the courses I teach in person for those who cannot attend live events. Should I start with standalone or film to offer them in the community? Or film to and offer them in the community? If this were easy, what would it look like, would be my question to you, Karen. What would be the simplest way to start bringing your people together again? And it might just be film one, bring those people in, and then the second one comes in, and then those people come in, right? And it just kind of builds over time. And there's this expectation that, the people who are in there, they might not all have access to the same courses, but they're kind of for the same people. And I've seen people do that really well, so much so that, people in one course actually, without even you asking, end up promoting the other courses. Right. And then people go, oh, I don't have that one. It looks like I need to go there because it worked for you, kind of thing. Thank you, dog. I appreciate it. Let's see. A few more. Mel says, Pat, I have long waited or wanted to join the All Access Pass, but my problem is identifying or deciding my business. Does it make sense for me to join, or should I wait until I have defined the community I want? Yeah. There is a course inside of the All Access Pass called Smart from Scratch. And I'm not just saying this because I want your money. You can, in fact, just read my book, Will It Fly, if you wanted to. However, the All Access Pass gives you access to Smart from Scratch, which can help you define your niche. It actually is an online course version of what I teach in my book, Will It Fly. But you can even just start with Will It Fly to learn who it is that you're serving, how is it that you're going to serve them, and validate that first. How to test your next business idea, or in this case, who it is that you're going to serve without wasting your time and money. So that's where I would start, Mel. Smart from Scratch would help you get to that end result a little faster because it's more structured, it's step-by-step, it's video courses, and it'll help you get there. But Will It Fly will do it just as well. Cycling with Oliver, same question, same answer. Joy says, Alpha Dinner Party. Is it meant for them to come to a series of dinners or just one dinner and then ask them to test drive the community? That's a great question. It's up to you. It could just be one dinner and then you kind of hold back, and then you get the beta launch after that when the soft launch. Or if you want, it might be a series. Have it be a limited series to start, though. Don't say, okay, it's going to be weekly for for an entire year, because I think that can push people back. If you say, hey, everybody, I want to invite you to this dinner party, and for just 1 month, we're going to meet every Thursday here, and we're going to talk about these things. Here are the things that I want to talk about. I'm going to set this up for you, and it's valuable to you to meet these other people and talk about these things and have a safe space to do it. I'm going to share some of these things with you. That can then become a great indicator of what will eventually become the community. Antonio Centeno, who I recently had on the podcast, does exactly this. He actually invited me today if I wanted to join a mastermind with a few other people with him about AI. And he said, it's only going to be for 6 weeks. We're going to meet every Friday, or I can't remember the day. I declined because the timing didn't work out. But I love the idea that it's like, it's so much easier for me to say yes when I know it's just going to be for a period of, like, a short period of time. Maybe it's just, hey, for the next 3 weeks or for the next 2 weeks. That way you see if there's people show up again. You're talking about different things. You're getting to know them a little bit better. But then it ends. But then you come back to them when you launch this thing even bigger with your soft launch. Laurentina says, question, Pat, do you think offering XX day money back guarantee is a necessity for a community membership site? Thanks. It can go either way, right? On one hand, you could say there's no refund policy because the value comes from you staying in here and being a part of this. And if we were to offer you a way to back out of that, then if that's of consideration to you, then we kind of know that you're not the kind of person who wants to commit to something like this and who will get the best value. I know some people who take that route, and it's, wow, what a strong thing to say, right? I'm so confident in our community that no, there's no refund because we know that you're going to get value in here when you commit to it. Wow. On the other hand, I know it can help people feel a little bit more safe. And I think a 7-day or even a 30-day can work. I know a lot of people who also say 60-day. Now, check the software you use. Sometimes the payment processors wouldn't allow you to do something to that length in terms of a refund back. You'd have to do that sort of manually and on the side. But what I think is cool about that is by day 60, a person should have gotten the value that they can get out of a community. I mean, and more so, right? They'll have 2 monthly cycles and have probably participated in a lot of events. And honestly, if they're not participating or being a part of it, then they shouldn't be in there anyway. But what's nice is 60 days, sometimes people are like, wow, this is a part of my life now. I'm habitually coming in here, etc. And it's just like they don't even think about refunds at that point anymore. All right, a couple more questions. Life Inspired says, if starting a new business, is it better to hold off on starting a community? When does it make sense to create a community? I think it makes sense to start bringing your people together as soon as possible. But if you consider a community something bigger, like a circle community or even a Discord, starting it after you get to a certain point might be smarter. Again, I still think it's important to see how you might be able to get people in a quote unquote room together to talk and, speak to each other. Maybe it's just a live stream, or maybe it's a text or a WhatsApp or something. I wouldn't text people with your actual phone number, but some group thing to bring people together ASAP. Even if it's just 3 people, that's so valuable, especially as you are starting your business, because those people are going to give you insights that you just can't get anywhere else. However, starting a more formalized community, alpha, beta, full launch kind of situation, you might want to wait till A, you have a few more people on board. That number is really up to you. And B, you perhaps understand more about your business model in a way that you know that that's not going to take time away from business functions that can continue to grow revenue in your brand. All right, final question here from, it could be a Zoom meeting too. Yeah, that's great. That's actually super smart because there's a little bit of friction involved to go and click on that link and to join. And if people do that, it's saying something. Joy with the last question here. I have a challenge going on and want users to join my community. Alphas in my community. Are they going to be all in the same space so that the challenge goers can also attend the dinner party? They can be, or it could be a separate one. I think that's really up to you. And I think it's important to sort of map it out so it makes sense. I don't know your audience as much as you do, so it might. I would just say put yourself in the shoes of each of those groups and consider what that would look like, and ask yourself if that's a good thing or a bad thing, right? So if the challenge is great, and a challenge is a great thing to bring a group of people together for a limited time to reach a transformation. But what you could do is have a separate space for those people who want to go further, and also your alpha members if you wanted to, if that makes sense. So, what's up, Kathy? Great to see you. All right, everybody, this was absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for the wonderful questions, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow for our last and final day of Webinar Wonderland. This does feel like the income stream, how it did back in the day, where we just went live every day about a different topic, and good vibes for sure. So thank you so much, everybody. I appreciate you. Please go to smartpassiveincome.com/all-access, and thank you to the team from SPI who's here, Heather and Kelsey. You guys are amazing, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Cheers. And again, one more time, smartpassiveincome.com/all-access. The price for that community and access to all of our courses and workshops, the guidance and the accelerators, that goes up at the start of the year. And I don't want you to miss out on that. So lock in that price, smartpassiveincome.com/all-access, and I'll see you soon. The replay for this will start immediately after this finishes. So you can go and watch the replay. And I promise you it'll be helpful if you've come in a little bit late. So no worries. Cheers. Take care, everybody. Thanks so much. Bye.